Alrighty, folks, get your hunting rifles and goggles out. We're going hunting today. It's James Cards FC. We're going to talk about soccer cards, of course, again. And today we're going to be talking about hunting the next hobby star. So we're going to take into account a bunch of different factors, and we're going to try and figure out who is the Darwin Nunez or Victor Osimhen of 2023/2024. Obviously, over the past two seasons, Darwin Nunez and then Victor Osimhen have been the two players that have gone up the most in terms of percentage and dollar amount on their markets. They went from obscurity into pretty much being the number one player everybody wanted at the time, and so we saw it with Darwin Nunez rather, and now we're seeing it with Victor Osimhen. That's the player everybody wants right now. So going into this next season of 23/24, I wanted to go ahead and try and figure out if we could figure out who is going to be this next guy. And so here's a few of the options up here on the screen. Spoiler alert, we'll be talking about a few of these different players. If you happen to know all six of these players, hats off to you. You're probably like a soccer prospecting addict if you know every single one of these players. So yeah, in case you don't worry, I'll be taking you through all of them and many, many more as we go on this hunt to try and find the next hobby superstar. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the presentation. So I'll move myself up here and we should be good for the rest of the video. This is going to be a long one, so feel free to grab a drink and get some food ready, grab some popcorn, and we'll get into this. Make sure to take notes. Introduction. As studied in a previous video, which is titled Prospect Ball, Darwin Nunez was the breakout hobby star of 2022 due to a variety of factors, and his cards increased substantially in a short time frame. It appears Napoli's Victor Osimhen is 2023's Darwin Nunez, a breakout hobby star that has seen rapid price increases due to many of the same factors as Darwin Nunez. In today's video, I want to review the reasons why these two players were able to increase so much in price, and then we'll use what we learned to try and project who the next breakout hobby star will be for this next coming season. So, in case you aren't familiar, this Darwin Nunez Obsidian rookie card was $50 in 2021, and at its peak in 2022, it was worth $450. This Victor Osimhen sticker in PSA 10 was $160 in 2022, and it just recently sold for $450 right now in 2023. So obviously those are huge gains in just two examples, but these players are the two breakout stars of the past two seasons in the hobby, and we'll be trying to identify who the third is going to be as my dog decides to take a drink of water, and I'll go ahead and pause the video for now and we'll skip ahead to when she is done. Alrighty, so we are back and we will finally move to this next slide. So let's talk about what made these two guys' prices boom. So on the left, you have the points for Darwin Nunez, and on the right, you have the points for Victor Osimhen. And as you can realize just by reading it briefly, they're pretty much the exact same reasons for both players. So world-class goal scorer in a lesser-followed league, old for a prospect, Darwin was 22, and Osimhen is 24. Big Champions League performances for both players, massive transfer potential for both players, and both players have very few rookie sets. Darwin was only in the Obsidian set, and then he also had a Portuguese League sticker. And Victor Osimhen had a 2016 FIFA 365 sticker, and then he was in two releases in 2020. He was in Merlin Chrome and Panini Chronicles, and those were the only sets for his rookie cards. So using these two players as a guide, we now know that what we are looking for, and I have bolded it down below. We are looking for a young world-class goal scorer in a lesser-followed league that will be playing in the Champions League next season, that has the potential for a major transfer, and has very few rookie sets. So taking this all into account, we'll be going through some slides to try and figure out who fits this criteria and who that might be. So let's start with trying to figure out who the young world-class goal scorers are in the world right now. So I'm going to be using non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes to determine the top young strikers in the world. You can use whatever metric you want. I prefer this because it tells you per 90 minutes how often these players are getting themselves in really good positions to score. Whether or not they score will then come down to their finishing ability, but for the most part, every single player finishes about the same, unless you're talking about Erling Haaland or Lionel Messi. Pretty much every player scores at the same rate as long as they're able to get themselves into positions for good expected goals. So these are the players that are getting themselves in great position to score often. I'm going to set the cutoff age at 22, which is Osimhen's age for his current season, and we're going to go ahead and look through the options of players that fit this criteria. So in first, you have Victor Osimhen. He's number one overall in non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes in the top 5 leagues in the world. I forgot to mention this is just for the top 5 leagues. So we're starting with just the top 5 leagues. Victor Osimhen is first in this category. His prices have already gone to the moon, so we're going to ignore him. Erling Haaland is third. He's already gone to the moon. So we're not going to talk about him. Darwin Nunez is fourth. He's already gone to the moon, so we're not going to talk about him. Luis Openda is fifth. Eddie Nikita is sixth. Kylian Mbappe is seventh. We're not going to talk about him because he's already gone to the moon. Balogun is eighth. He's already gone to the moon as well. Then there's Moise Kean at ninth. Mukoko is down at 20th, but he's already priced really high. Jonathan David is 21st, and he's already priced really high. Rodrigo is 31st, and then El Bilal Toure is 32nd. So, taking all this into account, after disqualifying the already expensive players, we're left with 5 more players to further examine from this list of potential young world-class goal scorers. Interestingly to note, numbers 1 through 9 are all young players. The only player that is missing from this list in second place is actually Robert Lewandowski, but the next players in the top 9 are all age 24 or younger, so something really interesting there. As the game continues to move younger and younger, these young stars continue being some of the best players in the world. But with all that out of the way, let's talk about this group of 5 players that we haven't disqualified yet that are among the best in the world in the top 5 leagues in terms of non-penalty expected goals per 90 minutes. So the first 3 potential options are the ones listed here. You have Luis Openda. He is 5th in this expected goals statistic. He is a 23-year-old Belgium center forward for Lens in League One, which is the French league. He has 14 goals and 12 assists in 28 matches this season, and the club is currently fighting for a Champions League spot. I believe they are 3rd in the French league right now and have a pretty good gap between them and the 5th place team, but go ahead and double check that. They are definitely fighting for a Champions League spot, though, and in my opinion, he seems like an excellent choice for the next Darwin or Osimhen comp. He's a guy that is scoring or putting himself in really good positions to score at a rate that is really high for the top 5 leagues in the world. He is playing for a club that not a lot of people pay attention to, in a league that nobody pays attention to, and he's going to be playing in the Champions League most likely next season, and that could get him some transfer budgets. So for a lot of reasons, I really like Luis Openda. Then we'll move to Eddie Nikita. He is right below Openda in terms of expected goals, and he's a 23-year-old English center forward for Arsenal in the Premier League. He has 4 goals and 1 assist in 23 matches this season, but the reason his goals and assists are so low in those 23 matches is because he doesn't always start. He comes off the bench a lot. And, of course, Arsenal as a club is fighting to win the Premier League. Unfortunately for Nikita, he already plays for a top club and would need to move away in order to get starters minutes. So I think we're going to go ahead and disqualify Nikita here because he already plays for a really good club. And in order for him to have the big headlining performances he would need, he'd have to move to a lesser club, and that'll take away from some of his transfer hype that could already come up. So I'm comfortable eliminating Nikita from contention for this exercise. Then we move to Moise Kean, a player that's been talked about for actually a few years now, but has pretty much fallen off the map ever since his transfer to Everton didn't go the way that everyone hoped it would. He's a 23-year-old Italian center forward for Juventus in Serie A. He has 5 goals in 23 matches this season, and like with Nikita, the reason those goal numbers are so low is because he doesn't always play starters minutes. The club that he plays for, Juventus, is suffering from the points penalty that it suffered earlier in the season. So they had points taken off the table due to some sort of infractions. I forget what they were. And this will likely lead to them not achieving European competition status. So unless they have a really nice run of form and some other teams fall off the top of the table, they probably won't make it into the Champions League. They still have an outside shot at getting into the Europa League, but they'd have to play really well, and some teams would have to drop a bit for that to come true. In my opinion, on Keane, the potential is there. Juve just triggered his buy option from Everton. They had him on loan for a couple years, and they just triggered the buy option a couple weeks ago. So obviously they see something in him that is either valuable for their current club or valuable to transfer on to somebody else. So that's a good sign. But the European competition, of course, is a big question mark, because if Juventus doesn't qualify, I don't think anyone's going to be paying attention to Keane this next year either. So it could not be until 2024 that Keane matters at all. Alrighty, then we'll talk about the next two potential options. We have Rodrigo, who is 31st in expected goals. He's a 22-year-old Brazilian right winger for Real Madrid in La Liga. He has 4 goals and 6 assists in 23 matches this season and plays for one of the top clubs in the world. Unfortunately, he gets limited minutes due to the club depth. There's just so many star forwards on that team that he doesn't always get to start or get to have really good minutes. So he would probably need injuries or some really stellar performances from himself in order to push into a consistent starting 11 role, and that's no guarantee, and so we're probably going to take him off the list as well. Then you have El Bilal Toure, who is a complete unknown, I'm sure, to most people that don't follow the La Liga regularly, but he is a 21-year-old Mali center forward for UD Almira. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, in La Liga. He has 6 goals and 2 assists in 19 matches this season, and he's playing for a relegation-bound club. They're currently one up from the bottom of La Liga, and they're likely going to be headed back down. So he has a strong season for a young player on a bad team, which is always really good for a forward because unlike in basketball, where if you're playing on a bad team, you're going to put up a lot of stats, in soccer, you're not going to put up any stats on a bad team because the team is going to be so bad that they just don't score goals. But for Bilal Toure, he actually has been able to score a decent amount of goals and assist a couple times, despite the fact that he plays for a very, very bad team. The unfortunate part for him is he just had a major leg injury, and I'm pretty sure he had an operation. It's kind of hard to get news on La Liga players here in the United States, but through a little bit of Googling on Twitter, I was able to figure out that he did just have a major injury, and he's had surgery, so he's going to have an injury recovery road ahead for him. He's probably also going to transfer out because if they get relegated back to La Liga 2, there's probably a lot of teams in La Liga that would want to have him, whether that be a mid-table team or a Europa League competition level team. Someone's going to want him, and he's probably not going to want to be in the second division of La Liga after he's proven that he can definitely be a useful player for a La Liga club. Now, like I said, that transfer is going to come up, and he's going to have injury recovery ahead, and so there's no really guarantees on what's going to go on with him over this next season, despite the fact that he had a pretty great season in La Liga. So, of the top 5 options, I think we can remove both Nikita and Rodrigo due to their club situations, and I think we can also remove El Bilal Toure, since not only is he further down the XG rankings, he's in 32nd in the world in the top 5 leagues, but he's also still likely a couple years away from featuring for your European tournament level squad. If ever, he could easily just be a worse version of Ansu Fati, where he's super promising, then he gets injured and he's never the same, and he hides around on a bench and then has to go transfer to somebody else. So it's totally possible that this is the last we ever hear of El Bilal Toure, but if his injury recovery goes well and he gets a nice transfer, we could definitely hear about him later on in the future. So that leaves us with 2 potential options. Actually, that leaves us with 3 potential options. Or is that 2? No, it's 2. That's correct. It leaves us with 2 potential options, 2 of the guys we discussed previously. But let's go ahead and dig into some of the even lesser known leagues to see if we can come up with a few more than just 2 potential options for the next hobby breakout star. So, going outside of the top 5 leagues, we'll go ahead and take a look at some young goal scorers that are not in the leagues that we've already discussed. So the first one's going to be Brian Brobbey. He is first in XG in the Netherlands, but unfortunately he is in the 2021/2022 Topps UEFA Champions League product line, so he has way too many cards. We can't really consider him because he just has too many cards. The reason Osimhen and Darwin do so well is because they have so few. So even if Brobbey is really, really good, he just has too many cards to get the explosive level pricing that we saw with Osimhen and Darwin, at least in my opinion. Then you have Santiago Jimenez, who is 3rd in expected goals in the Netherlands. Then you have Mohamed Kudus in 4th and Danilo in 5th. All of these other players I think we can discuss a bit further. You have Goncalo Ramos, who is 1st in the Portuguese league, but he's already gone to the moon, so we won't discuss him or his cards. Followed by him, you have Evanilson, who is 2nd in expected goals in Portugal. We'll examine him a little bit further. You have Ayase Ueda. I definitely pronounced that wrong. He's 1st in non-penalty goals in Belgium. We'll talk about him. Then you have Lille Abada, who is 3rd in non-penalty goals in Scotland. We'll talk about him. And then a couple of MLS guys, John Duran and Brenner. They are 3rd and 4th in expected goals in the MLS last season, so we'll go ahead and look at them as well. And I understand these are some serious dumpster dives right here in terms of looking for undervalued players, but let's go ahead and see if any of them are a bit more interesting than they might seem. So, Starting off with the three from the Eredivisie, you have Santiago Jimenez. Like I said, he is third in expected goals in the Netherlands. He is a 21-year-old Mexican center forward playing for Feyenoord in the Eredivisie. He has 8 goals and 3 assists in 24 matches this season, and Feyenoord is on top of the table in the Netherlands League. So he is a CONCACAF regional striker with Champions League potential, and in my opinion, there's a lot to like here with him because he's Mexican. The United States and Mexican markets are both really strong because cards in general is North American focused. He's young. He's going to probably start for a Champions League side. So a lot of things to like, in my opinion, about Santiago Jimenez, and we'll talk about him a little bit more in the future of this video. So moving next to Mohamed Kudus, he is 4th in expected goals. He is a 22-year-old Ghanaian attacking midfielder for Ajax. He has 11 goals and 2 assists in 25 matches this season, and Ajax is fighting for a Champions League spot. Kudus himself has shown flashes already at the World Cup and with Ajax, but it's possible he could get a transfer as early as this summer, which would move him out of Ajax and probably to a club where he already gets that price increase. So there's some unknowns going on with Kudus right now. I like him, but there's a few question marks for me. Then we move to Danilo, who is the next right down in the order. He is 5th in the Netherlands in terms of expected goals. He is a 23-year-old Brazilian center forward for Feyenoord, as well as Santiago Jimenez. So he is the teammate of Jimenez at Feyenoord. He has 8 goals and 3 assists in 26 matches this season, so he's matching Jimenez's output in 26 matches instead of 24. And of course, they're at the top of the table in the Eredivisie League. He unfortunately is buried on the Brazil's depth chart because he's a forward playing for Brazil. There's so many great forwards that play for Brazil, so not the best for his country outlook. And he also has been limited recently with Feyenoord. He opened the season playing a lot more minutes than he has been playing recently, so that's not the best sign, but it's possible he'll have a chance to start in the Champions League next year, as Feyenoord looks like they'll obviously be there. So if, for whatever reason, Santiago Jimenez makes a move or Danilo ends up getting some starters minutes back, he could start in the Champions League next year, and that would be great for his market. Then we'll move to Portugal and Belgium to talk about one player each. In Portugal, you have Evanilson, who is 2nd in the league in expected goals. He is a 23-year-old Brazilian center forward playing for Porto, and he has 6 goals and 6 assists in 16 matches this season, and Porto is fighting for a Champions League spot. He has already had a few UCL opportunities and he did not impress, so that's not always the best sign that he hasn't really lived up to the European level of competition, but perhaps next year will be different, so probably worth keeping an eye on Evanilson. Then you have Ayase Ueda. Like I said, I probably am pronouncing that wrong, but he is 1st in non-penalty goals in Belgium. He is a 24-year-old Japan center forward for Brugge, not the Brugge that we all know of, but a Brugge that has a green kit. So he plays for that club. They are a mid-table club with a slim chance at European competition. They would need a lot of things to go right and some other teams to drop out, so probably not likely to play in Europe next season. But he has performed really well in the Belgian league. He has 14 goals in 30 matches, and like I said, he's 1st in the league in non-penalty goals. Surely, at least in my opinion, a step-up move is going to be on the way, whether he goes to one of the top teams in his league or goes to an even better league than the Belgian league. I think it's very likely that in the summer he makes a move, but it's probably too late in his career at this point. He's going to be 25 in the summer, and unfortunately it's probably just going to be too old for people to really get excited about him, but it's possible he pulls a Matoma and becomes this superstar for a few weeks and his market completely shifts, but at least right now, I'm not super positive on his outlook, despite the fact that he has been playing very well this season. And then we'll go into all the rest of the players that I listed previously. We have Lil Abada, who is 3rd in non-penalty goals in Scotland. He is a 21-year-old Israeli right wing for Celtic in Scotland. He has 10 goals and 5 assists in 29 matches this season, and Celtic is on top of the table in Scotland, and I think they're pretty well clear at this point, and they're going to win that trophy. He's a promising young forward with Champions League football on the horizon, but bigger clubs are circling him right now. He actually declined to extend his contract with Celtic, so it's likely he's looking to move on this summer, and he could move to a club at the bottom of of a league's table. He could go to a bottom Premier League club or something like that. I think there was a rumor that a team like Bournemouth or something like that wanted to sign him. So if he goes to a team like that, it's pretty much all over for his card values, and he would miss out on the UCL completely. But if he ends up staying or transfers to a bigger club, those would be great things for his market. Then you have John Duran, who is third in expected goals in the MLS last season. He is a 19-year-old Colombia center forward playing now for Aston Villa in the Premier League. He had 8 goals and 6 assists in 28 matches in the MLS last season, and he's mid-table. The Aston Villa is currently in mid-table, and they are far outside of the European competition or contention window. So he's probably not going to play in any sort of European competition, which is not great for his market. But like I say here, he is very young, and he's already in a mid-table Premier League club, which is a good sign. He's one for the future, but clearly no Champions League football anytime soon. So this is more of just somebody we should make sure we have on our radar for the future, but probably not going to be a guy that pops off in late 23 or into early 24. Then we move on to Brenner, who is 4th in expected goals in the MLS. He is a 23-year-old Brazil center forward playing for Cincinnati currently in the MLS. He had 18 goals and 6 assists last season in 29 matches, and his club, Cincinnati, lost in the quarterfinal of the MLS playoffs. So, in my opinion, Brenner would need a move to Europe as soon as possible. Nottingham Forest in the most recent transfer window was interested from the Premier League, so it's possible some other Premier League clubs or other bottom clubs in some other European leagues would be interested in Brenner. The clock is really ticking on him, seeing that he's 23 and he's only playing in the MLS. He really needs a European move, but if he gets that move and ends up playing on a bigger stage, it's possible he could be due for some nice increases, especially because he's coming from the MLS, so a lot of Americans like myself already know his name. Alrighty, then we'll go ahead and put together our list. So after scouting every league for young goal scorers, we have our list of 9 potential players that could explode next season. I've separated them into groups of strongest options, decent options, and then long shot options. So in terms of strongest options, I have Luis Openda, Moise Kean, Santiago Jimenez, and Mohamed Kudus. In terms of decent options, I have Danilo and Evanilson. And in terms of long shot options, I have Ueda, Leo Abada, and Brenner. And then looking further than that, if we want to look beyond 2023 based on what we looked at today, these are some names that I would also be keeping tabs on. Those would be El Bilal Toure. He's the Mali center forward playing for Almeria. At least currently, he's probably going to transfer. And then you have John Duran, who is from Colombia, currently playing now for Aston Villa after transferring out of the MLS. So now that we finally have these lists, we can go ahead and start looking at each player's cards to see if there's some opportunities there. So starting out with the cards for the strongest options, in my opinion, you have Luis Openda. He has a 2019 Topps Champions League sticker from his season with Bruges. This is also a set that includes a Holland rookie sticker in it. This is a set that is massively produced, so there will be no rarity or scarcity to it, but it is well before any of his future releases that come after that. So after that 2019 sticker, he is in the 2022 Panini Foot stickers for France, and he also has the 2022 Panini Score League 1 product that is coming out this week. He's in that checklist both as an insert and as a base card, so there will be some parallels for him, although Score is not a very popular product in terms of its value keeping in the hobby. And as I say here, he's probably going to have more Panini sets that come out for 2022/2023. He'll probably be in a Serie A Mosaic set, he'll probably be in a Chronicle set, and he could be in more sets than that, so make sure you're aware of those. If I was targeting something, I would probably be waiting until those products come out, or if you want to get in really cheap, I guess, on a 2019 sticker, there are going to be a ton of those, but if you look around, you can probably find them really cheap right now, probably for even like $1, because nobody's really looking at his market right now. So those are options for you, but I think if you're trying to look at this as what's really going to explode in value, you're probably going to have to wait for his cards that come out in 22/23 product. Then you go on to Moises Kean. He has a 2016 Panini Calciatore sticker. Just like with the Luis Openda rookie sticker, this one is not rare by any means. It's going to be very common, but it is his first sticker, and it comes way before any of his cards. Then in 2019, he has rookie cards from a variety of sets, but not a huge amount of sets like the guys we see nowadays. He's in these 4 sets that I list here: Panini Chronicles, which has both Prism and Donruss, Panini Gold Standard, Panini Impeccable with a rookie metal insert card, and then Panini Obsidian. So he's in a few different sets, but not an overwhelming amount. Those would be the options that I would be looking at. I would prefer the cards and the lower numbered cards as opposed to the sticker if you want to get in on a guy like Moises Keane. All of his rookies are already out, so it's all out there for you. They're very, very cheap right now, but of course, there's risk with a guy like this. Then we have Santiago Jimenez, who currently only has 1 card. It's this 2022 Topps Now card from the Europa League. It also has parallels. I think it has a purple out of 99 and an orange out of 50 or something like that. But yeah, Santiago Jimenez has 1 card right now, but he's very likely, at least in my opinion, to be in the 2022/2023 Merlin Chrome set, and probably some more that come out later this year in 2023. So keep an eye out for those. The more of those that come out, the less valuable this Topps Now is to his market. So keep an eye on for future releases for Jimenez. I would guess he's almost certainly going to be in Merlin Chrome. Then we have the last of the strongest options, in my opinion, and that is Mohamed Kudus. In 2020, his rookie season, he's in the Obsidian set, the same set that Darwin Nunez is in, and he also has a Panini 365 sticker and a Panini Adrenaline rookie card. I would avoid the sticker and the card because they're extremely high pop in terms of how many were produced, so I would be avoiding those, and I would just be going for the Panini Obsidian card if you're interested in Mohamed Kudus. He's also in the 2022 World Cup Prism set, so a lot of people really like first Prisms and they like the World Cup Prism set, so it's possible that those cards could be good options for him as well if he does explode over this next year. Alrighty, then we'll move into cards for the decent and long shot players. Danilo's market is actually really easy. He only has 1 card set, and it is the 2021 Panini Obsidian set. He has no other cards. I couldn't even find any other stickers, so I'm pretty sure that is the only thing that he has. Feel free to do some additional research, but I think his market is super easy to understand. You just have that 1 card, and at least as of time of recording, it is very, very cheap. Then we move into Evanilson, who is in 3 sets in 2020. He is in Topps Merlin, he's in Topps Stadium Club, and he is in Topps Museum Collection. He doesn't have base cards in any of these products except Museum, so he doesn't have a Merlin base card and he doesn't have a Stadium Club base card, but he has autos in all 3 of these sets. So those autos are somewhat expensive, I think. I think it's like $10 or $15 for an autograph if you go for the Merlin or the Stadium Club set. If you go for the Museum Collection set that has the patch, I think they're a bit more expensive, but by no means is Evanilson currently expensive. Then you have Ayesa Ueda. I pronounced that name wrong for the final time in today's video. He's in the 2020 Epoch J-League product, which is a Japanese release product that Mitoma is in. So Mitoma has rookies in that product, and Ueda has rookies in that product as well, and PSA will grade them if you want to grade those. He's also in the 2022 Epoch World Cup set, and he's also in the 2022 Calbee World Cup set. Calbee, if you're not familiar, is a company like Topps or Panini in Japan that really does a lot of baseball cards. So they put out a soccer card set for the World Cup, and all the Japanese players are in that set. So Mitoma has one, and Ueda has one as well. Then you have Brenner, who is in 2021 Topps Chrome and 2021 Topps Chrome Sapphire for MLS. His market's really easy. Those are your 2 sets and options there. Then you have Leo Abada, who actually, really interestingly, has a 2020 Panini Israeli League sticker as well as Panini Israeli League Adrenaline cards. I was able to find this gold sticker right here on eBay. There's only 1 of them. It's probably super rare just because I don't think a lot of people from the Israeli Panini League are listing stickers, so might be a bit of a Kavicha Karava, whatever his name is, situation there, but I'm not saying he's that good. He's probably not that good. Not very many players in the world are that good, but you have that sort of similar situation where you have a Panini sticker from a country where the production is probably really low and the awareness on the market is really low, and so that is an option I wanted to share with you. And then more popularly, he is also in the 2021 Topps Chrome Scottish Premier League football set. So those are your options for Abada. And then we'll move into the cards for beyond 2023. We're going to talk about Touré and Duran. So starting with El Bilal Touré, he is in 2020 Panini Adrenaline for France, and then he is also in 2021 Panini Foot for France. So the Adrenaline card actually comes out a year earlier, then the sticker comes out the year after. He's also in 2022 Panini Mega Cracks, and he has an SD sticker with Almira. So those are your options for El Bilal Touré. And then for John Duran, really, really easy. All he has is Topps Now MLS cards. He has 3 different ones. He might have more, but these were the 3 that I found easily. So that's the only set that Duran has been in up to this point. So as I say down here, Touré will almost certainly have better cards that come out for the 2022/2023 season. La Liga usually gets its own Mosaic product at the very least, and they'll probably get a Chronicles product and maybe a few other products in there. So it's probably best to just avoid all of Touré's current releases and wait for that really good stuff to come out. Mega Cracks is printed to the moon these days. As you can see with the Pedri rookie, there's so many of those sitting out there. The SD sticker, obviously printed to the moon. And then nobody really likes Adrenaline cards, so you can probably avoid that one. And then Panini stickers from France are also produced in high numbers as well. So there's just not a good option right now for Bilal Touré, which is fine because, like I said before, he's injured. Nobody knows about him. Nobody's going to care about him for a while. So probably just best to wait until he gets some better releases and then try and find an entry point then if you want to take the risk on Touré. With Duran, it's a completely different story. He missed the Premier League and MLS checklists for 2022/23. It's possible that his short-printed Topps Now cards will be his only 2022 cards, which would be big for his market going forward if he does end up being a world-class level player. He would only have these super short-printed Topps Now cards for the MLS. I think most of these Topps Now cards are around 100 print run, so those are really, really short print when you compare them to other cards in the market. And if those are his only 2022 cards and he does go on to be a world-class player, those cards could be grails for his market. Obviously, that's a lot of speculation, but if all that were to go right, these cards would be huge cards. And then I do say to expect him in the 2023/2024 EPL Prism set. We're over a year away from that at this point, but when it does come out, I would expect his name to be featured in the checklist. Alrighty, we finally made it to the end. Here is the conclusion, and it reads that the best case scenario for price increases is to identify a player that is relatively unknown and has very few cards to choose from. If the player with very few cards ends up performing well on a big stage, the supply of their cards cannot withstand the demand increase, and prices go up drastically, as we saw with Darwin Nunez and now with Victor Osimhen. This cannot easily happen for a player like Jonathan David, who has an abundance of rookie card options, because if Jonathan David does something amazing in the Champions League or makes a big transfer, he just has so many cards that the supply and demand scales can weigh each other out, and his price increases aren't as drastic. Today, we used expected goals to try and identify young goal scorers who could take the Darwin/Osimhen leap in 2023/2024. And as I say at the very end, it's totally possible that none of these players we talked about today end up doing anything notable in their career. That's just the fun of the ultramodern market. And most importantly, here at the very bottom, do not buy any of the cards in this video just because I mentioned them. Please do additional research. Like I said in that point, it's very possible that none of these guys will end up doing anything in their career. So keep that in mind. Do some additional research. This video was just a fun exercise to try and figure out if we could get some good ideas of who might be the next hobby superstar level player as we move into the 2023/2024 season. And these, based on expected goals data, would be some of my best guesses. But of course, at the end of the day, all those are just guesses. So with that, I will go ahead and conclude today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I will see you in the next video, which will likely be the live that I will be attempting to do on Monday, depending on if, like I said before, my computer and my internet allow me to. I'm going to try and do a live of the fireside chat for the month of March. So feel free to tune into that. It'll be sometime midday Eastern Standard Time on Monday the 27th. And I'll be talking about a few different topics that I want to cover for this month. Feel free to hop in, leave some questions, and I'll try and answer them live through the chat. And we'll have a great time on Monday. And then, of course, once that stream ends, it will be uploaded to the channel as well, so that you can view those that fireside chat as well as the Q&A on any time that you like, and you don't have to be there live for it. So With all that out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys on Monday or in the future for the next video.